Arsenal scout made 56 reports on one player, but Arteta said no. Gooners, I've got a fascinating story for you about what goes on behind the scenes at Arsenal. It's about a player our scouts were absolutely obsessed with, but Mikel Arteta and Andrea Berta decided not to sign him, and when you hear the numbers involved, you'll understand just how much work goes into these decisions. Arsenal's scouting network is phenomenal. We've pulled off some incredible signings over the years thanks to these guys. Gabriel Martinelli cost us just $6 million and became a star. Christian Mosquera has been the find of this season so far. These scouts are working all year round trying to identify talent that can improve us. But not every recommendation gets the green light, and this is where Thiago Almada comes into the story. Jonathan Vidal is Arsenal's scout responsible for South America. That's a huge job because there's so much talent coming out of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and every big club in Europe has people on the ground there competing for the same players. Vidal joined Arsenal back in 2014, and he's done a brilliant job over the last decade, but there's one player he really pushed for, and the club said no. Thiago Almada. In an interview on ADN Radio, Vidal was asked if there's a player who really caught his eye but was rejected by Arsenal. His answer, Almada. And here's where it gets crazy. Vidal said he's done 56 reports on this player. 56. That's not a typo. He's known Almada since he was playing in the under-15s. That's how far back this goes. Vidal has always insisted on him, always liked him, but Arsenal identified a problem, physical weakness, especially for the Premier League, and that's why, despite all those reports, all that work, the club decided not to pull the trigger. Vidal even admitted it's frustrating when a player you scout ends up playing for another club and succeeding. He said maybe it would have worked out, but the Premier League is difficult because it's very physical. That physical concern was clearly the deal breaker. So who is Thiago Almada? He's a 24-year-old winger who currently plays for Atletico Madrid. He came through the Vélez Sarsfield Academy in Argentina, then moved to the United States to play for Atlanta United. After that, he went back to South America with Botafogo, had a loan spell at Lyon in France, and then joined Atletico Madrid this summer. But here's the thing, he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. Even during his time at Lyon and Botafogo, Almada didn't score 10 goals despite playing over 50 games for both clubs combined. At Atletico, he's yet to prove his worth. So was Arsenal right to pass on him? Based on what we're seeing, yeah, it looks like the right call. Vidal clearly saw something special in the Argentine, but as things stand, we're not looking back at Almada with any regrets. However, and this is interesting, our next Champions League game is against Atletico Madrid. If Almada returns to full fitness, he could get a chance to show Arteta what he missed out on. That would be his moment to prove that all 56 of those reports were right. What do you think, Gooners? Should we have taken the risk on Almada, or was Arteta right to prioritize physical strength for the Premier League? Let me know in the comments below. Ian Wright says he'd struggle playing under Arteta, but is he right? Gooners, Ian Wright just said something pretty interesting about Mikel Arteta and how Arsenal play, and it's got people talking. The Arsenal legend basically admitted he'd find it difficult to play in today's game, and yeah, he was talking about us. So here's what went down. Wright was on the Overlap having a debate about modern football and why so many games feel a bit flat these days. He made a really interesting point about how much structure there is in the way teams play now. Wright said there's so much fear of losing that when you watch games, everything feels overly structured. It's built up to the point where it just doesn't feel entertaining anymore. That's when Roy Keane jumped in and asked, Arsenal in particular, or you can imagine the tension in that moment, right? Wright joked about Manchester United first, but then he went straight back to Arsenal. He said, I think it's a fair illusion to a certain extent because it feels robotic. That word, robotic, that's what's getting people's attention. Then he went even further. Wright admitted that he doesn't know how he'd play in the current climate because he was always more of an instinctive player, especially in the final third. And here's where it gets specific to Arsenal. He said, when you watch games now, when teams get to the final third, people are playing it safer, and he's seeing that a lot at his club at Arsenal. Now, Wright did mention that we've signed some players who will take a shot from outside the box and try different skills, but he doesn't think we see enough of it. That's a pretty direct criticism of how Arteta's got us playing. Look, it's a fair point to some extent. Arteta has been accused this season of playing things too safe when we're chasing 3 points. And yeah, at times it does impact how entertaining we are to watch. But here's the thing, the margins in the Premier League are smaller than ever. Every point matters. So the question is, does something have to give? Do we sacrifice a bit of entertainment for results? But here's where it gets interesting, and this is why I'm not completely buying Wright's take. Noni Madueke, one of our new signings, recently talked about exactly this subject. He was asked about Arteta's instructions and whether there's too much structure. Madueke said that he and Ebereki Eze play similarly. They don't think much, they just play what they see. And then he said something crucial. Mikel gives them freedom to get the ball and to try and be dynamic and positive. That's coming from inside the dressing room, from a player who's actually working under Arteta every day. So what's the truth here? Is Wright right that Arsenal are too robotic in the final third? Or is Madueke's version more accurate, that Arteta actually encourages instinctive play? Maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe the structure is there, but within that structure there's room for creativity and freedom. What do you think, Gooners? Is Wright onto something, or is he being a bit harsh on Arteta? Drop your thoughts below. Former Arsenal striker now worth £65 million, and we sold him for £4 million. Gooners, we need to talk about one of the most embarrassing pieces of business Arsenal have done in recent years. When I tell you the numbers on this one, you're gonna feel the pain all over again. Look, we all know Arsenal have improved massively under Arteta, but that doesn't mean we haven't made some baffling decisions. One of the biggest problems Andrea Berta needs to fix is how terrible we are at selling players. Just look at the summer window. We let Albert Sambi Lokonga go for £260,000. Yeah, $260,000 for a midfielder who cost us millions. But as bad as that was, it's nothing compared to what I'm about to tell you. Remember Mika Biereth, the Danish striker from our academy? We sold him to Sturm Graz in summer 2024 for just £4 million. At the time, we thought we were clever by inserting a sell-on clause. Smart business, right? We'll get a cut when they sell him on, except that clause got activated just 6 months later when Monaco came calling. So yeah, we got a small cash injection, but our connection to the player ended way too early, and now his value is absolutely skyrocketing while we count our pennies. Last month, Biereth's market value was sitting at £61.5 million. Now, Seas Football Observatory just updated their valuations in October, and he's worth £65 million. That's more than 10 times what we sold him for, and it's only going up. 20 months ago, we sold this kid for less than £5 million. 20 months, now he's worth $65 million and climbing. That's not just bad business, that's comical. So what happened? In the first half of the 2024-25 season, Biereth scored 14 goals for Sturm Graz. Monaco noticed and brought him to League One in January, and this is where it gets really painful. In his first 16 appearances for Monaco, Biereth scored 13 goals, 13 in 16 games. He didn't need time to adapt, he just hit the ground running and showed everyone what he's capable of. Now here's the kick in the teeth. While Biereth was scoring for fun in France, what were Arsenal doing? Struggling without a proper striker in North London. The irony is almost too much to handle. This 22-year-old that we let go for peanuts is now worth more than most of our squad. He hasn't looked back once since leaving Arsenal. We need to hope this disaster has been a learning experience. We can't keep making hasty decisions to cash in on young talent for painfully low fees. $4 million for a striker now worth $65 million. That's not just a mistake, that's a pattern we need to break. Andrea Berta came in to fix problems exactly like this. We can't keep getting fleeced on sales while paying premium prices for incoming players. We had Biereth right there in our academy, and we couldn't see what he could become. It's cost us tens of millions, £65 million. That's what Mika Biereth is worth now. And we sold him for $4 million. Let that sink in. Drop your thoughts in the comments, Gooners. Are you furious about this? Let me know below. And that wraps up today's biggest Arsenal news. If you enjoyed the update and want to stay on top of everything happening with the Gunners, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Come on, Arsenal!